Aneta and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share my experience of creating a painting inspired by my favorite artists on Instagram. In particular, I was inspired by the work of Isabella Mazzanti and Marie-Alice Harrell. Both of these artists create beautiful and minimalist pieces that really spoke to me, and I knew I wanted to try my hand at creating something similar. When it comes to Isabella Mazzanti, I had the pleasure of visiting the Illustri exhibition in Vicenza, here in Italy, last summer, where I had the opportunity to admire Isabella Mazzanti's beautiful art. The exhibition featured a wide variety of works by several talented artists, but Isabella's pieces were the reason I went there. Her minimalistic use of color and texture in her illustrations is absolutely stunning, and I found myself drawn in by the intricate details and whimsical nature of her art. As I wandered through the exhibition, I felt completely captivated by Isabella's unique style and found myself wishing I could take one of her pieces home with me. Overall, the exhibition was a fantastic experience and left me feeling inspired and in awe of the incredible talent on display. Speaking of Marie-Alice Harrell, back in September I subscribed to one of her courses on book illustration. I opted for the video access only as the full course was a bit pricey for my budget, and since I'm not really a beginner, I felt that paying for the full course wasn't necessary. However, the course was a great way to refresh my knowledge and skills, and I found many of the tips and techniques that she shared to be very helpful. So I started by doing some research into these artists and really studying their work. I was especially drawn to their use of color and symbolism, and I knew I wanted to incorporate those elements into my own painting. I spent a lot of time brainstorming ideas and sketching out different compositions, but my first few attempts weren't just working. My first attempt was too basic, with a composition that was uninteresting and colors that didn't work well together. I quickly realized that I needed to spend more time thinking through my palette and making sure that every detail of the painting was intentional. My second attempt was a bit better, but the composition still wasn't quite right. I felt like I was regressing and the painting looked like something I would have created 10 years ago. Additionally, I struggled with my color choices and every detail seemed too important and the background was too intense. For my third and final attempt, I started by creating a sketch that I was happy with. That was at the beginning of January. However, when it came time to apply colors, I found myself hesitating. I didn't have the courage to start painting and risk ruining the piece, so I turned on my iPad and used Procreate to create several different color compositions. After careful consideration, I settled on a palette that included shades of blue, violet, and white. I applied masking fluid and I covered the big central areas with paper tape, hoping that I had covered everything that needed to be covered. However, as I began to paint the background, I started to worry that I've been too sloppy with applying that tape and that some of the paint had seeped through onto my sketch. It was a nerve-wracking experience, but luckily I was able to overcome this issue by using gouache, which has a higher coverage than some other types of paint. I was relieved that I could fix any mistakes I had made and continue with the painting without any issues. Well, almost. One of the most enjoyable parts of the painting process for me was working on the trees around the central character. I found it to be a very meditative experience, especially when I was painting flowy shapes. I was able to get lost in the process and I just let my creativity flow. I really enjoyed watching the trees take shape and become a part of the story that I was going to convey. When it came time to paint fabric, I struggled a bit. I wanted to capture the flow and movement of the fabric as realistically as possible. There were some moments when the process was very smooth and I was happy with the way things were progressing. However, there were other times where I had to adjust the paint a few times, and I even had to use gesso at some point to cover areas that I didn't like. It was a frustrating experience, but I knew that it was all part of the learning process. And then, to my dismay, I realized that her hand was unnaturally leaning on her leg. I had to repaint it to make it look more natural and in line with the rest of the painting. It was a minor setback, but I knew that I had to fix it if I wanted the painting to look as good as it could. To make matters worse, the owl that I had painted was sitting again unnaturally on her knees, and it just didn't look right. So I had to add a branch to make it look more natural and believable. It was a lot of work, but I was determined to make it look as good as possible. In the end, I was really happy with the way the painting turned out, and I felt proud of the progress that I had made as an artist. One of the most satisfying parts of the process was painting the girl's hair and the crescent moon. I knew I was getting close to the finish line, and it was really exciting to see everything come together. As someone who loves the inspiring power of the moon, I find its symbolism in art to be particularly fascinating. Throughout history, the moon has been associated with a variety of meanings and emotions, including mystery, magic, femininity, and even insanity. In many cultures, the moon represents a divine feminine power, often associated with fertility, intuition, and creativity. In art, the moon has been a popular subject for centuries. In the 19th century, the Romantic movement in Europe saw a renewed interest in the symbolism of the moon. Romantic artists used the moon to convey a sense of mystery, melancholy, and a longing for the unknown. This was reflected in many of their works, which often featured the moon as a central element, either as a full moon shining in the night sky or as a crescent moon peeking out from behind the clouds. The symbolism of the moon in art can also vary depending on the phase of the moon. For example, a full moon is often associated with illumination, completion, and abundance, while a crescent moon might symbolize growth, change, and transformation. As for myself, I find the moon to be a source of comfort and inspiration. Its calming presence in the night sky reminds me of the beauty of the world around us and the power of nature. Whether I'm painting a moonlit landscape or simply gazing up at the moon on a clear night, I always feel a sense of wonder and awe and its beauty and significance. Throughout this process, I discovered some new art supplies that I absolutely loved. One of my favorite discoveries was the My Mary gouache from their Fine Line series, especially their Payne's Grey color. I found that this color was perfect for creating depth and shadows in the painting. It blended beautifully with the other colors and gave the painting a sense of cohesion. One of the most satisfying parts of the process was painting the girl's hair and the crescent moon. I used acrylic holbein to paint the moon, which gave it a beautiful mint color and provided a perfect contrast to the blue and violet shades in the rest of the painting. It was the final element to paint, and it was really exciting to see everything come together. I made a pale halo with the white Caran d'Ache pencil, and then I varnished everything with acrylic varnish. The varnish had an awful smell, so I made sure to ventilate the room properly. But I love how it makes the colors pop and gives the painting a nice finish. Throughout this painting process, I faced many challenges and made mistakes, but those were the moments that taught me the most, I guess. As an artist, I have learned that it's important to embrace those challenges and use them as an opportunity to improve. I think it's important to remember that creativity is a lifelong journey that never really ends. There's always something new to discover, to learn, to experiment with. Sometimes it can feel frustrating when things don't turn out the way you had hoped, but those are the moments when you need to be kind to yourself. Take a step back and see the bigger picture. So, if you're feeling stuck in your artistic journey, remember that, it's okay to take a break, explore new techniques, or try different styles. Take inspiration from other artists and their work, but don't compare yourself to them. Everyone has their own unique style and voice, and that's what makes art so beautiful and diverse. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in my next video. Ciao!